I get asked one question a lot, and that's how do you study? How do you learn something? And that question comes from all students I've ever mentored from all years, from those in GCSE years to A-level years to undergraduate years. How do you learn? It's weird, we spend at least 20 plus years in school, college and university, and rarely have I ever heard of a module or session on how to learn. And it's why I believe the future of education is with us. Keep your eyes peeled for what me and Abdul are bringing out. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. This video is for anyone who has the task of learning something, anything. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ans Chowdhury. I'm a junior doctor in London, the co-founder of Scrubbed-In and an NHS clinical entrepreneur. This is by no means a thorough course on how to learn, but it's an overview. It'll get you started. Whether you're learning a subject, a topic, an instrument, how to take photo, how to video or design, these following 6 steps will get you going. And that's scope, understand, explain, question, recall, and repeat. Let's begin with scope. It's important you know what you're going to be learning and when. It's the difference between, say, walking through a dark tunnel with a lamp in your hand, which gives you a very short sight. You don't know where you're really headed. You find out as you move forward. Versus walking through, I'm gonna say, the most scenic place on earth in daylight, where you get to see everything, where you're going, and you get to take it all in. I use an extreme because learning for me is such a powerful and amazing thing. Let's say you're studying a subject. Go through the curriculum first. What are you going to be learning and when? Go through the chapter titles. It'll guide your learning. I used to remember when learning about the brain, right, there was this pituitary gland, it released a bunch of hormones and things. But I'd question, where do they go and what effect do they have? But having looked through the chapters, I knew that I'm going to be learning about the various other organs, and these very same hormones interacted with them. So I knew it'll make sense once I piece it all together. Knowing that allows you to focus and consciously be aware that you're only forming a section of the puzzle as you move ahead, and it'll make sense. So what about when it comes to revising? If you plan and scope what you have to revise or learn, it gives you a greater internal control. What it does is that it protects you from being overwhelmed by the feelings of, I don't know this and I don't know if I'm going to know it by the time the exams come around. Instead, you have the feeling of, I'm learning X today and Y tomorrow, and I'll be prepared by the time the exams come around. After you've scoped it out, focus on understanding. I hate the notion of committing something to memory that you don't understand. Let's take simple color psychology for example. Why does blue represent trust? You can memorize it as a list of Google, right? Or you can understand, where is blue seen? What industries use it? What professions use it? And then you start to understand why the notion of trust comes about. Now forget memorization at first. Learn to understand, read to understand. And once you've understood, you can move on to step 3. And that you should be able to explain it incredibly well. I made a whole video on this the other week. To know if you've learned something well, you have to be able to explain it. Simple as, talk through it, write it down, explain it to someone. Ask the question why constantly. Check out the full video that I made the other week. Then comes questions. Questions create triggers. You're working so hard to store information in your brain, it needs to be also made accessible, right? Write and do questions as you learn. Imagine questions as doors and answers as on the other side. You need to make sure that you can access that information. Answering questions creates context and meaning to what you've learned. And when you see a question, you should be able to trigger those answers. Now, whilst my style was to read, learn, and do questions, I know others that recommended to look at questions on the area that you're learning before even starting, because it gives you a sense of purpose as you're learning. You're learning, you're reading to find an answer, and it's more effortful. And usually things that are more effortful stick better. So look for questions, look for quizzes, look for mocks, look for anything that asks you to give an answer. The next step is an extension from questions, and it's to actively recall. So what does that even mean? Simply reading and reciting is not enough to do well. That's just storage. You have to be able to extract all of that knowledge inside of you. So practice extraction, kind of like the movie Inception. So as I said previously, do questions. It's a great way of accessing knowledge and consolidating it. Use questions from anywhere. Get into friendship circles and test each other. Use flashcards with just memory triggers that requires you to answer. Anything that forces you to extract is active recall. There's one method I use which I later found out to be called brain dumping. I used to write a title, a concept, a theory on paper, and I would recall every single thing that I knew about it. I'd put it onto paper and I saw gaps to appear and I just filled them. But as I wrote it all out, I would actually also say it out aloud. So now I was engaged physically by writing, verbally by reading it, and also I like to think that I was engaging the auditory parts of my brain because I was listening to myself as I was reading it out. Finally, spaced repetition. What does that mean? Basically, knowledge we don't use fades. Natural. You can't stop it, but you can slow it down. If you revise a topic yesterday, you'll remember it today, of course. The question is, can you remember it in a week, a month, a year, or when that exam comes around? Now, once you've learned it, you need to regularly exercise that knowledge and review it. You need to strategically place it on a calendar to do this. You can't just revise a topic, say, once in the beginning of a 6-week run-up to an exam. You need to find points of time to revisit that topic in the run-up. There's loads of videos on this on YouTube. Just have a quick search of it. That was a quick run-through of how to learn. I'm working on a course. Give me some time to bring it out. If you've got questions, pop them below. All of those principles are applicable to learning in general. Give it a shot and make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for watching.